speaking about communicating with a dove, you first met the crew in the Amazon. You talk about JJ as somebody who can communicate with animals. What do you think JJ is able to see and hear and feel that others don't, that he's able to communicate with animals?
When I say this is the most skilled jungle man I've ever seen, and I know so many guys in the region, he has libraries of information in his cranium that we cannot fathom. It's just stunning. Like, I have seen him use medicinal plants to cure things that Western doctors couldn't cure. I've seen him navigate in such a way that he's not using the stars. He's not using any discernible. It's like when elephants, sometimes like you'll watch a herd of elephants and they'll be like, yo, let's go, we're going this way. And you'll see them sort of communicate, but there's no audible sound. They'll just decide that they're going that when they all do it. JJ has this way in the jungle of, he'll stop and he'll go, wait. And you go, what is it? And he goes, there's a herd of peccary coming. And I'm like, where? what? Based on what?
Yeah.
And he's like, just wait, you'll see. And he'll sit there.
You think that's just experience?
It's an incredible experience. It's growing up barefoot in the Amazon. And the gift is that he can speak fluent English. And so when I bring tourists and scientists or news reporters down there, he can communicate with them. He's actually good on camera because he doesn't care about cameras. And like, for instance, we were walking up a stream a few months ago and I went, hey, look, jaguar tracks. And he went, oh, and I was like, what? Jaguar tracks. And he's like, no, look harder. And I was like, the toes are deeper than the back. And he was like, uh-huh. And where are they? And I was like, by the water. And I was like, oh, the jaguar is drinking. It was leaning to drink. And he was like, that's right. He's like, now look behind you. I look behind me. And there's scat. There's a big log of jaguar shit sitting there. And it's got butterflies all over it.
Fresh?
Pretty fresh. And then there's another one that's less fresh. And so he's teaching me as he does. He's going, look at this. Look at this. Is that one as fresh as this one? No. And then he goes, now look up. Look up. There's 3 vultures above us. The kill is near us. The jaguar has been coming multiple times to the river to drink as it's feasting on whatever it killed. And he's going, it's within 30 feet of us right now. And it's like, I'm like, oh, look, impressions in the sand. He's like, I just drew 19 conclusions from that. It's like watching Sherlock Holmes at work. It's just
reconstructing the crime scene.
Incredible.
Does that apply also to be able to communicate with the actual animals? Like read into their body movements directly? Into their, whatever that dove was saying to you, to be able to understand? Or is that all just kind of taken in the complex structure of the crime scene, of the interactions of the different animals, of the environment and so on? Like, what is that you're able to communicate with another creature, that he was able to communicate with another creature?
He knows the intention of pose. He knows the habits. He knows the perspective. When he talks about animals, he'll talk about each species as if it's a person. So he'll say, the jaguar, she never likes to let you see her. And so he'll come back from the jungle and he'll go, I was watching monkeys and this jaguar was also watching the monkeys, but I was being so quiet, she didn't see me. And then when she see me, she feels so embarrassed and she'd go. And he'll tell you this story like as if he had this interaction with like his neighbor. And, and he'll be like, oh, the pukakunga, it never does that. You won't see it do that. And so one time he caught a fish. And I was such a big fish. It was this big, beautiful pseudoplatystoma, this tiger catfish, this amazing old fish. And they're all excited to eat it. And I felt so bad watching this thing gasp on the sand. And I went, you know what? We don't need this. This is for fun. I threw it back.
Oh, no.
And then I took my hand and I went, and I made like drag marks, like so I could say, oh, it snuck back in the water. And so he walks up, he looks at it, and he was like, I hate you. And I went, what? No, I said, it must have just, he went, that's not what happens. He goes, it goes like this when he knew the track of a fish. And I was like, oh yeah. And I was like, all right, JJ, I'm sorry. I'll catch you another fish.
So stepping back to that way you open Mother of God.
Yeah.
Who was Santiago Duran and what secret did he tell you?
JJ's father was, at some point he was a policeman. At some point when he was a teenager, he was working on the boats that before this little gold mining city of Puerto Maldonado grew. The only way to get supplies in was to take canoes up the Tambopata River up to the next state, which is Puno, and where mules would come down from the mountains with supplies, and then he'd pilot the boats down, but they didn't have motors at that time, so he would be pulling the boat. So he became this physically terrifying man. And I met him when he was in his 80s, and he was still living out in the jungle by himself. And I mean, he's seen an anaconda eat a tapir, which is a cow-sized mammal in the Amazon. He'd seen uncontacted tribes face to face. He once killed an 11-foot electric eel, opened the back of the thing's neck, removed the nerve that he says was the source of the electric. Then he cut his forearm, placed that nerve into his forearm, wrapped it with a dead toad, and claimed that it would give him strength through the rest of his life, and continued to be a jungle badass until the day he quietly leaned back at a barbecue and ceased to be alive. The man was incredible. But the secret that he told us was that if you want to find big anacondas, if you want to see the Yakumama, he was like, you have to go to the Boayo, the place of boas, the place that we came to call the floating forest. And so he sent us there, and it became like this pilgrimage. And, in the Amazon, a lot of the creation myths are based around the anaconda coming down from the heavens and carving the rivers across the jungle. And if you look at the rivers, it looks like that. It looks like the path of an anaconda crawling through the jungle. It's even the right color. And so from the reference to the tribes of women, the Amazons, to the anaconda mother, everything in the Amazon is very feminine based. Even the trees, the largest trees in the jungle, the mother of the forest, the Madre de la Selva, is the kapok tree. And it's just this monster tree, these beautiful ancient trees. And that was the beginning of the transition that we made from me being like, I hate school, I want to go on adventures. Jane Goodall got to do all this amazing stuff. I'm just a kid stuck here, to eventually becoming something that had to do with where my identity became the jungle, where my life became the jungle. The secret that he told us opened that door, because when we started working with these giant snakes, it started getting attention. It started getting people to go, what are you doing? And it started allowing me to have experiences that solidified and nailed down the fact that this wasn't just like a weekend retreat. This was something that I was born to do.
And gave you more and more motivation to go into these uncharted territory of the Yakumama.
Yakumama.
Which, just to step back, what nations are we talking about here? Is this some geography? What are we talking about? Where is this?
So I'm in Peru.
Yeah.
We're in Peru. And so Peru,
which is a South American nation.
Peru is a South American nation. Brazil has 60% of the Amazon, which is unfortunate, because anything that happens politically in Brazil has a massive impact on the Amazon. Mm-hmm. Peru has the Western Amazon, and Ecuador has a little bit of the Western Amazon. And the Western Amazon is where the Andes Mountains, the cloud forests, which is a mega biodiverse biome, falls into the Western Amazon lowlands. And so you have the meeting of these two incredible biomes, and that's what makes this like superlative, incredible, glowing moment of life on Earth. So yeah, we're in Peru, in the Madre de Dios, which is the mother of God, which I always thought was such a beautiful, the jungle is the source of all life. And so we were with the Eseha people, and they belong to a community that's called Infierno, which was given by the missionaries who, when they tried to go bring these people Jesus, got so many arrows shot at them that they just called it hell. And so Santiago Duran helped unite these tribes that were sort of scattered through the jungle and get them status, government recognized status as indigenous people. So he was sort of a hero. He was sort of a legend for a lot of the stuff he'd done out barefoot with just like a rifle and a machete in the jungle. He had 19 children. Mm-hmm. And the last one, I think the 20th child that he adopted was a refugee from the Shining Path that floated down the river, and he just took him in. And this is just a guy that was everything he did, like when he died, the whole region showed up. He was somebody. So just the fact that I know him gives me street credit. Like the fact that I knew him, I can go like, oh, I knew Santiago, and people are like, no. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah.
So you have to get integrated to the culture, to the place. I mean, in every single way, which is tough for you for being from New York.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been tough, but it was. I took to it. The jungle they were very JJ's teaching me about medicines, and we were doing bird surveys and taking data on macaw populations, and JJ was just like, you really want to, like, he goes, you got to sleep. And I was like, I only have a few weeks here. I don't know if I'm ever going to come back. I'm never going to sleep. So we'd be out every night looking for all the wildlife we could. I wanted to take photos. I wanted to see things. And then, the exchange came with that. He was like, I'm terrified of snakes. And I said, well, I've always worked with snakes. I said, I'll teach you how to handle snakes. And then we just had this like little exchange. And when I left after my first time back in 2006, I said, how can I help? And they were like, look, we're out here trying to protect this little island of forest that is going to be bulldozed. And the more people that you can bring, the more knowledge and the more awareness that you can bring to this, it'll help. And so really at that age, at 18 years old, I sort of started dabbling with the idea of that I could be part of helping these people to protect this place that I loved. And of course, at that time, that idea seemed like too large of a dream or too large of a challenge to that I could actually impact it.